Hello and welcome to Rebirthing the Planet, one woman at a time, where we gather together soulful leaders, heart-centered businesswomen, practitioners and healers who are here to make an even bigger contribution to this world. Today we are talking about the way we talk to ourselves, self-talk, and to assist us in sharing her wisdom, I have on the line with me Leonie Percy. Now, she is a business mentor, mindful maven, and author of the international award-winning book, Mother Own. Leonie is a multi-award-winning business owner and hosts the Magnetic Mama podcast, which is currently in 30 countries. She's a mentor for mums, teaching them how to find joy and creating a business that they love. She combines her experience of going through a divorce, becoming a single mother, a degree in psychology, and a passion to keep families connected to create her business. Leonie is a mindfulness teacher and leads a tribe of mamas that are changing the world while mindfully raising their kids. I love that. Welcome, Leonie.
Oh, thank you. Namaste. Thank you. I'm very, very honored and happy to be here with you. What a beautiful summit this is.
Yes.
So everybody tuning in, I just want to really congratulate and honor you for taking that time to, reconnect back to your beautiful light.
Yes, absolutely. Thank you. So we are going to talk today about self-talk, why it makes or breaks us. But before we do, I'd love to hear maybe your journey, how you went from wherever you started to really knowing and becoming aware that this is such a key component to living a happy life.
Yeah, thank you. I'm really happy to share my story. And I think we all have stories and it's how we connect to each other. Everybody loves a good story. And my story is one of sadness, but also one of absolute joy, as all good stories are. So I was married 6 years ago, quite happily, actually. And I came home one day and my husband was actually in tears. And I was like, babe, what's wrong? And to cut a very long story short, he'd lost his connection to himself, to me, and to our son, was about to turn 2. And that resulted in him having an absolute breakdown. And it resulted in the end of our marriage. And it literally happened overnight. Like, it's not like there was arguing or you were still being intimate. It was literally this real sense of disconnection. And really the catalyst for that was the birth of our son. So that was pretty horrendous for me. I was 35. I was suddenly a single mom. I had to move. I had to go back to work. There was a lot of sort of life-changing situations around this. And this then sort of propelled me on this journey of reconnecting back to me, reconnecting back to my light and my truth. And it was such a struggle in that time. And I was being, I guess I was very angry around why this had happened. There was a lot of denial around why this happened. And then there was just this phase of acceptance. And this took about 18 months. So it wasn't, it was a pretty interesting journey. And it was yoga and mindfulness that were such profound tools for me to reconnect back to who I was. And I reflect on this 6 years ago when I'm getting remarried. I have a beautiful daughter. I have this amazing business. I wrote my book, Mother Own, when I was a single mom, and that's helped and healed so many mothers. So I live in eternal gratitude. And I still use these tools of yoga and mindfulness every day because they're so powerful to really just love who you are and be able to step into your truth. And when you inspire that within yourself, you allow other people to step up and shine too. So it's very, very powerful. And I'm very grateful for my divorce because I'm here now having this conversation with you.
Yes. Yeah. I'm so glad that we're here. And it's such a theme, isn't it? That we need to have these wake-up calls, or something traumatic needs to happen, which at the time we may not understand. And it does take these 18 months or however long it takes to becoming and rebirthing and recreating who we are, so that we can then shine a light and use that gut-wrenching pain to do a lot more with our lives. And that's such a story, and I'm so grateful that you stuck with that and that you're here today and sharing that message and being that beacon of light.
It's really interesting. I was at a conference just last week, and there was a beautiful speaker talking about writing books to shine your light. And she was talking about the power of why you do this. And it was really interesting because I was sitting there and I was reconnecting back to that pain I felt when I was going through my divorce. And I actually had to get up and walk out because I was really overcome with emotion. And I think when we're in these times of struggle, it's so powerful. It's such a teacher for us. You know, when we feel this this anger or you know, when things really touch our hearts like that, that's just the transformation of how we then you know, turn into these beautiful butterflies. And I really want to write my next book, Magnetic Mama, which is the name of my podcast. And you know, I really want to teach mothers and women in particular how to be magnetic and live this life where they just attract abundance and joy, and you know, make money with ease and grace, and all these wonderful which is totally possible when we live in flow. And so I'm really on this mission now to, you know, get a publishing deal and write that next book, because again, the why is so strong. And I think when you're connected to your why and it's so deep within inside you, then you can do anything. You can, you know, absolutely change the world.
Yeah, completely. And to help us do that is the self-talk. Let's talk about how self-talk contributes to either being able to be in that flow and to changing the world, or just to have obstacles.
Yeah, it's very interesting. I really believe the way that you talk to yourself makes or breaks you. And with my background in psychology and with my journey, I know that the way you talk to yourself has a massive impact on your external world, because your outside world is a reflection of your inside world. So if you're having a lot of drama in your life and you have relationships that aren't serving you, and we all have friends that have lots of drama, or even family members, and we're sort of in this perpetual cycle of drama, it's because your internal turmoil is just a reflection of how you're actually feeling. And when I work with mothers in particular, and I'm sure there's lots of beautiful mums on this call, I know that, you know, when they're having struggles with their children, it's not the child that's usually that has the diagnosis. It's the mother that has this inner turmoil, and they kind of, you know, want their child to be resilient, and they want their child to be confident, and they want their child to have positive self-talk. But actually, the reflection of what they're putting out there, because kids feel us, you know, it's energy. Is complete opposite. And so when we can be really kind to ourselves and check in with ourselves and cultivate love and kindness and compassion towards ourselves, your whole world changes. You know, it really, really does change. And that can be from standing in front of the mirror and just saying, hello, how are you today? You know, just check in. And that can then, you can start to have a dialogue with yourself that's more loving. Just, you know, treating yourself with more kindness and just saying, I love you. You know, I'm sorry, I forgive you, I love you. And this is so simple, but it's so powerful, because if we actually spoke to ourselves like we speak to someone we love, our children, our you know, our pets, we kind of have all this love and adoration for our children. You know, we don't tend to speak to ourselves. We tend to speak to ourselves like we speak to our kids when we're angry, and then we feel terrible you know, shame and guilt around that. So we want to start to cultivate, when we are saying mean things to ourselves, like we do with our children, we will go to our child and say, I'm sorry I said that. And we'll hug, but we don't do that to ourselves.
Yes. So how can we become aware of the self-talk? How can we become aware of what's even going on there? Because I know for myself, unless I'm consciously tuning in and becoming aware of what am I actually saying to myself in response to what happens, have you got any tools of how we can catch that self-talk?
Absolutely. I'm a huge fan of writing it down. Journaling is a very powerful tool, and all the clients that I work with, I recommend that they journal. Positive affirmation is huge, and it can be anything from, you know, wanting to attract abundance into your life, or more money, or your soulmate, or whatever it wants to be. But it all starts from coming within. So you, you know, wanted to start with writing positive affirmations connected to yourself that are relevant to you right now in your life. You know, I am magnificent. I am abundant. I am joyful. You know, I am a kind person. Like, write things that you are, that you love about yourself. You know, and I know with some women, it's like they can't even find what they like about themselves. You know, I mean, ask your loved ones, why do you love me? You know, what is it about me that you love? And you start to create a love list.
So how do you deal with the internal critic that then comes in and says, no, you're not. No, you're not magnificent. No, you're not this. Have you got any tools around that?
Yeah, look, acceptance was a huge lesson for me.
Yeah.
And it's something that it's a work in progress. It's every moment of every day of every life. You kind of have the yin and the yang,
Yes.
the masculine and the feminine going on. And my fiance always laughs because mine's like out loud. So kind of have this conversation where I'm like, one side says this and then one side says that, and we kind of joke about it all the time.
Yeah.
So you could give your kind of, you know, inner critic a name and make it quite comical, and, you know, sort of try to distance yourself from that and say, okay, I acknowledge that you're saying that, but in this moment right now, I'm just going to acknowledge that, and then I'm going to move on. You know, I'm just going to say, thank you for that, like, unkind thought that you got from your father or your ancestors, or, you know, the limiting self-beliefs that come from lineage. It's not even your belief, right? It's someone else's.
Yes, exactly.
And I think, yeah, to just acknowledge that. And you've got about 9 seconds in terms of how your brain works before another thought of the same nature comes. So you've got this beautiful pause, which is where mindfulness comes in, where you can say, thank you, Dave, whatever you want to call whatever you want to call it. And you can acknowledge that, but then, you know, with the power of your mind, you can kind of turn that into something more positive.
Yes.
And when I work with women who say, I don't have time, I'm so busy, and it's like, well, yes, of course, time is limited, but when we keep saying we don't have time, we don't have time.
That's right.
So if you keep saying to yourself, I'm too busy to meditate, of course you're going to be too busy to meditate. And meditation is 1 moment.
Yes.
That becomes 2. That becomes 3. And so I think we kind of tell ourselves these stories, which aren't ours, are our beliefs for a start. And when we start to unlock some of these and kind of turn it into something comical and have a bit of a play with it, and we write down how we're feeling, we start to be able to acknowledge that. And the power of writing is transformational. So trauma victims will write down what happened to them. And when we write it down, we externalize it, which allows us to process it. So writing them down, and you don't have to read it again, you know, like the artist's way, you can just write your morning pages and never read them again, and that's okay. There's no judgment. But it's that process of letting it go and becoming aware of what you're thinking about. Then that conscious awareness allows you to then be able to change that.
Yes. Do you want to talk a little bit more about the artist's way? Because I've done that process as well. And I, over a course of 3 months, it was like 8 years ago, I've written myself into clarity of what my next business step was. So maybe you can share how, just a little bit more around why is it such a powerful tool?
I think writing in general, whether it's artist's way or whether it's just you journaling, and some people don't like writing, they feel very blocked around writing, and I'm like, if you don't want to write, you can just do audio, you can just record it onto your phone. You know, there's so many ways that you can actually just get out whatever it is, brain dumping, mind mapping, whatever it is that you need to do, because clarity is something that we all seek. We all want to know why we're on this planet. We all want to know what our purpose is. We want to get clarity. And so, I think finding what works for you, for some people, it's dancing. You know, they feel that connection when they're moving. So you're either kinesthetic, audio, or visual. You know, so, and it's also how you use your intuition as well. You know, do you feel it? Do you hear it? Do you see it? For me, it's writing. And for most of my clients, it's writing. And I think getting into a habit of being able to write down how you feel, and this is where mindfulness is so powerful as well, because you use mindfulness through the senses. So you use it through that sense of touch or taste or smell or sight, sound. So being able to write down and really connect with who you are is a very powerful process of transformation. So whether you get up and you write, if you have the time, whether you just lie in bed at the end of the day and you just check in with yourself, practice some gratitude, mentally switch off from the day, and it's that separation between tasks, taking some deep breaths, and letting go of what happened on that, and then being able to have a peaceful sleep. Most people like, if you can get up early in the morning and have 15 minutes to yourself before the family wakes up, you're so much more connected and grounded. I mean, we play music every morning. We're always dancing around in our kitchen. And it just kind of connects us as a family. And so I think it's about whatever works for you is finding that medium. And that's how you find your clarity. So for me, it's writing, but for other people, it will be running or sex. That's a big one for me. It's a meditation for me. So you've got to find what works for you.
Yes. Yeah. So going back to the self-talk and understanding exactly how these thoughts that we are talking, how do they create our reality?
Yeah, so manifestation is, I think a lot of people talk about manifesting, but they don't really know what it means. Like they don't, it's like this aloof concept, kind of like I'm going to manifest a house and, what does that actually mean? And I think we need to understand, first of all, that we have energy first and physical second. So what that basically means is everything around you is actually just solid matter, as in it looks like it's solid, but it's actually energy. So, this goes back to quantum physics. I'm not an expert in this. I find it fascinating. But the point is that when you want to manifest something into creation, the universe feels your vibration. So you can write down, I want to find my soulmate, I want a new job, I want a house, I want a baby, whatever it may be. But you need to feel that to actually get it. And I recently did a vision board and I wrote down, I want to buy a house and I want to go to Europe and I want a publishing deal. And then I realized that I need to connect the emotion to that. How would I feel when I get my publishing deal, when I get it? How will I feel when I take my family to Europe next year? And I then went on my vision board and I wrote the emotion. Because to manifest what you want, you have to be able to feel what it feels like to get that. So self-talk comes in really powerfully here. Because if you don't believe you're going to get that, you're not going to get it. And there's so many beautiful quotes that illustrate this. If you think you can, you can. If you think you can't, you can't. And we teach this to our children, and my son who's 8 gets really upset when he makes a mistake. And I'm like, darling, that's how you learn. Yes. You have to make mistakes so that you remember next time. I mean, we're still working on that because he seems to make the same mistake over and over again. Like, But I'm like, that's how we grow. Mistakes are awesome. Failure is great.
Yes.
And I think it's that mindset that's really important, that we see our failures as growth.
Yes. And I guess the reason why perhaps your son is still making the same mistake over and over is because he's focusing on the mistake.
Yes, absolutely.
And another thing that there is about the mind, isn't it? What we focus on is what we get. And if we even say, "Oh, I don't want to have an accident," or "I don't want to forget my purse," then
you forget it.
Exactly, we forget, because the unconscious mind can't process the don'ts. It can only process what's behind that and where the most energy goes. And the most energy, perhaps in that example with your son, is going to, "Oh my God, the mistake."
Yes, absolutely. And I have, there's a whole other conversation around the schooling system in Australia. But anyway,
we won't go there today, but yes.
Yeah, we won't go into that today. But I think we need to encourage this within ourselves as well, that we're not so scared of failure that we don't even start.
Yes.
And I know that when I work with my clients, they just think, I have to do another course. I have to just get my website up and running. And I'm like, no, you don't need to do any of that. Like, that's just part of the strategy. 50% of what we're going to do is your mindset. We're going to believe we can. We're going to get rid of those I guess, thoughts that tell us that we can't. And in fact, actually, that's not true. We can't get rid of those thoughts because it's how we're programmed. But we're able to step out of that and say, when my intuition tells me not to do something, I'm like, okay, I'm going to use this sense of inquiry. Why is it telling me not to do that? And what's the underlining fear or belief that I have that tells me not to do that? So when I feel, no, don't go down that road, I use that as a sign to go there. Because I know that that's my ego that wants me to stay playing small. And that's not my light that, wants to go out there and change the world. So I use that feeling of self-doubt and I'm really grateful for that, because I'm like, awesome. I don't want to get up on stage and speak in front of 500 people, but I know that when I do that, I step into my truth, and I love it once I'm on the stage, right? But it's that getting up there that's really, really scary. And this is why people start a book, don't finish it. Start a project, don't finish it. And something I'm really passionate about with self-talk is you do one thing and you do it really, really well, and you don't lose focus, and you don't go off to the shiny object syndrome and try and do 10 things. So mindfulness comes in again where, whatever it is you're working on, that's your one thing. And you're able to focus and be productive and launch that into the world, or whatever it is that you're working on, because we know that where our focus goes, energy flows.
Yeah. So only do one thing at a time and do it until it's finished with that real mindfulness. Yeah. And the other thing that just came to me is, like, in terms of self-talk, we can program our self-talk, can't we?
Yep.
Say when we have achieved this thing, my God, you did that really well.
Yep. And then buy yourself a reward. Let's say you do finish a project, or you do something that you've wanted to do for years, it's on your bucket list, and totally, write a bucket list. And I think when you've actually achieved something magnificent, go out and buy yourself something really wonderful, or book that trip you always wanted, or just do something to really celebrate yourself, because it's such a journey of transformation when you set yourself an intention. I prefer the word intention to goal, but you set yourself an intention and then you work through that, and then you get to where you want to go, and there's a real celebration there. And I think we don't give ourselves enough credit.
I agree. Absolutely.
We really don't. And a tool that I use is actually, I love using progressive art. So I just happen to randomly have these. These are gorgeous. My favorite brand of tea is the Madam Flavor tea. And she has these gorgeous pictures that you can, when you buy your tea. And I get my clients to, when you do something awesome, it can be, I was really kind to myself today and I did yoga, color it in, and then you start to create this really beautiful artwork. And it's really visual. And so again, you start to track doing kind things to yourself, doing kind things for others. But you can also use it to track income as well, which is, pretty cool. And you can do it to track all kinds of things. But I think keeping yourself accountable and working with someone else to possibly keep you accountable as well. Like my fiance is really great at saying to me that, stop it. Like, stop that, going into that rabbit hole, like stop, take a breath and move on. And having someone there to actually, who sees you differently, to be able to step in. Like even my kids will do it sometimes. You need to take 10 breaths. And yesterday was adorable because I was feeling a little tired and my daughter hadn't slept very well. She's 2 and, that whole story. And I stood on the steps outside, were on our way to ballet, and I just closed my eyes and took some deep breaths and said some mantras. And I turned around and my 2-year-old was copying me. She was standing there, and she's like, I am awesome.
Isn't that wonderful?
It's so gorgeous. Yeah, it's just so gorgeous. And so I think, the more we can love ourselves.
Yes, not just silently, but externally. And oh my God, I did that really well.
Yeah, I didn't lose it. I was calm.
Yes,
I was so tired. And, using the sunshine and using the earth, and that's something I really want to share with all of you beautiful women. I mean, this is a global summit for transformation. I mean, Mother Earth, my goodness me, is the most powerful support for us as women. something that I do now when I'm sitting at my desk, and I don't particularly like wearing shoes because we feel so connected, but it's just to close your eyes and really connect into the energy of the earth star crystal. And just really, when you're feeling tired or depleted, is something is just closing your eyes and visualizing this beautiful light that you are, and that it's coming right down through your body, and it's going right down into the earth, and you're connecting right into the core of that earth and getting so much beautiful energy. And then, you know, if you're having those moments of self-doubt and negative talk, just connect with that energy, because it's divine consciousness. Absolutely. And it's just love.
Yeah. In fact, I'd love everyone, if you can, just to visualize that right now. You know, when you were describing it, I was already doing it. And I just take a moment to really connect right now, because we can do it whatever we're doing. You know, even if we're driving, you can still focus on the road, but you can use your breath to connect in.
Yeah, it's and I think the visualization of light is incredibly powerful, because we are all light beings, and I believe our sole purpose is to awaken the planet. And we're in this amazing age of Aquarius now, and there's this big paradigm shift, and we have a responsibility to awaken. And this is why we're getting all these star children coming in that don't fit in, and they're, you know, challenging to parent, but they're going to change consciousness. Yeah. And so I think when we have this awareness that we have a responsibility on this planet to step up and shine our lights and make that change, that's our purpose. So if you have been trying to find your purpose, that is it. It's to awaken. And however you see yourself doing that, and to inspire others to do the same. So the way you speak to yourself and the way you speak internally completely reflects your external world. Like, it's, you know, it's so, you know, look around and see what you're plugging yourself into. There's such a great analogy where you know, you actually get a phone charger and you basically say, what is it? Is it drugs? Is it alcohol? Is it, you know, staying up late to watch TV because you've had no break that day? You know, is it gossiping? Is it all these things that suck your energy? You know, you need to plug yourself into what serves you. It's getting a good night's sleep. It's eating a healthy diet. It's doing some meditation. You know, plug yourself into what gives you energy and serves you in the best way, because the women I work with are depleted, exhausted, overwhelmed, and they just don't know what to do next because they're plugging themselves into things that aren't serving them. And so, you know, the first thing you can do is look at where your energy is being expelled and say, how can I say no? How can I move away from some of these relationships that are really taking a lot of my energy? And how can I self-care? And that's the first step to that conscious awareness of being able to voice and speak your truth and say, actually, I love myself more.
Yeah, definitely. And that is such an important tool. And I love the visual of, you know, we just unplug this and plug this in. It's like getting into a different circuit of higher energy. And the other thing that just came when you were talking earlier about children is like, you know, you only have to go to mothers groups to know how often they say, oh, well done, you know, this is beautiful, how we praise and encourage our children, but we don't do it to ourselves.
No.
And it's really interesting, and I'm thinking the reason being is because we hook onto the negative so much more than a positive. One bad word can undo 1,000. So it's 1,000 good ones. So that's why we are absorbing, you know, all that negative self-talk that maybe a teacher or a parent has given us. You know, you're not good at that. Why are you doing it this way? And we forget all of the other praise that we've received. So it's so important for us when we're talking to ourselves to talk to us like talking to a child. And then if the critic comes in, to say thank you. But you could say that differently. You know, there's another way we can say that. And then you mentioned the 9 seconds that we have to shift it so that it doesn't stick.
Yep. It's a hamster wheel.
Yeah.
So if you imagine your thoughts are sparks of energy, So you're kind of, sending out these thoughts, and we have like, oh my goodness, something like 400 thoughts a day or something, right? So,
At least, yes.
And most of the thoughts we have, about 70 or 80% of the thoughts we have are the thoughts we had yesterday and the day before and the day before and the day before. So it's basically like a record player. It's like this old kind of cool gramophone, and it's just playing the same story over and over and over again that you've learned from childhood and your past lives and your lineage, and oh my goodness, so heavy, right? And so when we start to become aware of these thoughts that we have over and over again, we start to be able to change them, and mindfulness rewires your brain and allows you to create new conscious pathways, because the brain, we know a child, you smile at a baby, it smiles at you, right? It's the neurons are copying and mirroring. So we are able to start to change this conscious programming. And, your DNA is not your destiny. Just, if you had depression in your family, it doesn't mean that you're going to have depression. You can change this. It's really powerful. And so I think when we have this awareness of how our brain works in this kind of cycle, we start to say, okay, I understand, I'm feeling this way. This has happened. It's triggered me. I'm going to get the chocolate, the tissues. I'm going to watch the movie. I've got my period and I'm just going to let it out, and that's okay. And I'm going to be kind to myself. And I think that's a huge thing for women, is to rest when you have your period.
Yes.
Just rest. And just go into, your red tent and your cave and honor yourself, because that's, huge. And I think mums in particular just soldier on and, get more and more depleted. So that's something that when I get my period now, I'm like, awesome. I'm watching Netflix and I'm eating chocolate,
Yeah.
And it's kind of really, that's a really welcome break. But yeah, knowing that you've got 9 seconds to change that thought process. That's acknowledging it, kind of making it comical, and if we were to actually say our thoughts out loud, you'd be like, oh my goodness, like, what is that?
We're going to wrap it up in a minute, but just want to comment on that, because when about 7 years ago, I got an exercise channeled through from Source saying, for one whole day, speak every single thought out loud. And you know what? After 2 hours, I had to lie down and sleep. I was exhausted. There was so much. Oh my God. And this wasn't the little things. And, like, it is such an amazing tool to speak it out loud, to become aware of what is even going on there.
Yeah. What's going on?
And then we can change it. And now when I do that exercise, there is not as much, as a lot more silence, a lot more space.
Great.
Beautiful. Yes.
Yeah. We all need more space.
Yes. Yes. And on that note, Leonie, we're going to have to wrap it up, and I'd love to hear your free offer. How can people how they can get in touch with you is by clicking the link below, but what is it that you would like to gift them so they can get to know you even better?
Yeah, beautiful. If you just go to www.leoniepercy.com and you can subscribe with your email, and I created these beautiful affirmation cards for children. And what I've done now is put them on my business cards, and it's really lovely because each business card actually has a different affirmation. And when I go and I give out my business cards, people get to choose them. So I've got things like I am strong. I've got I am kind. They're really beautiful, right? So these are all in my book, I Am Love. And they were originally made for kids, but I'm like, we all need more affirmations. So you can download those, you can print them out. They're really, really beautiful. So there's 7 gorgeous affirmations that you can enjoy to kind of start to cultivate more self-love, and write them down. When I work with my clients, we jump on a call every month, and this month the theme is affirmations and gratitude. They have been writing every day affirmations and gratitude that's relevant for them in their life, and it will change their vibration, which will change their reality.
Absolutely. Thank you for that. That's really beautiful. All right. Well, that brings us to the end of our conversation. There were so many tools in there, Leonie, and so people might have to just listen back to it and just write some of them down, and whatever resonated with you, just take it, use it. Don't just think, oh yeah, that's a good idea, but really actually use whatever you are getting here to implement it into your life if it resonates, and tell us on the Facebook page what that is for you, because there was so much in this conversation today. So me and Leonie are now going to head over to the membership site to record our secret interview, where Leonie is going to share with us how she's starting her day, what she is doing to stay in her light so that she can stay in that vibration of awakening the planet, rebirthing the planet. Bye for now.
Bye.